Do you know his ability? You see, the things of God can never be understood by the natural mind. If you walk with God with the natural senses, you cannot go far. How do you explain Jesus? Hello, friend, and welcome to Christian Corner with Judy, where I share my personal thoughts based on biblical principles. On today's episode, we'll continue our conversation on the Small but Mighty Faith series. And today we are looking at Suppress Your Fears. Okay, I sure do hope that you've been following through this conversation on the Small but Mighty Faith series. If you have not, please check the previous post so you can catch up with the conversation. Okay, so today our Bible reference will be taken from the book of Numbers chapter 13 and 14. It's a popular story, we know about it, we've read about it back then, the story of the 12 spies. God had promised his children that he was going to give them a land flowing with milk and honey. And he asked Moses that he should send leaders from each tribe. And you know the people of Israel have 12 tribes. Send leaders from each tribe and let them go and spy the land so they could come back with their findings. And so amongst them was Caleb. Caleb was one of the 12 spies. So these men went out, and for 40 days they were spying the land that God had promised them. And they came back. They came back with reports that were frightening, that scared the people. They said, "Oh, yes, this land flows with milk and honey. Oh, this land is massive. But we heard that this land swallows up its inhabitants. Surrounded are enemies. And then we have giants. Hey, in fact, when we were there, we looked at ourselves and we said, Kai, we are like grasshoppers before them. That these ones, they will devour us. They will consume us. They will swallow us up. That's not a land we can go to. It will be hard for us to possess that land. In fact, it is an impossible. In fact, maybe they would have said it was mission impossible. And the children of Israel were scared. Yes, Caleb said, yes, we saw these people. Yes, they are great in size. But the Lord himself promised us this land. We will go. And God be with us. We will claim this land. And then Joshua later on joined him. Because these people were ready to, the children of Israel were ready to attack Moses. In fact, they said, why didn't God leave them in Egypt? Or why didn't he even kill them in the wilderness? Now, will he not allow their women and their children to be plundered on? They felt like, God, you have failed us. What have you done to us? You would have just left us in Egypt and would have continued as slaves. Fear came because of the report. The Bible actually called the reports of the other 11 spies evil report. It is evil because it is contrary to the will of God for his children. From that story, what can we learn? How do we tie it to the Small but Mighty Faith series? You see, the assignment God has given you this year, if it does not scare you, that means it's just an ordinary one. It's not mind-blowing. Because in the act of trusting God, in the act of working by his instructions, in the act of working in obedience to the instructions of God, you must believe in the power of God to handshake his supernatural ability with your natural ability in order to bring forth mind-blowing results. God was so angry that the people of Israel were almost rioting. They were accusing Moses and Aaron, what have you done? What did you people do to us? God said, with all the signs and wonders that I have shown these people, they don't believe me. With everything that I have done, they don't believe in my power. That I spoke a word and I say, go, claim this land. You came back to tell me, because of what you saw, so you don't believe. And that's the way some of us treat God. To what extent do you believe in the power of God? Do you know he's almighty? Do you know his ability? You see, the things of God can never be understood by the natural mind. If you walk with God with the natural senses, you cannot go far. How do you explain Jesus feeding 5,000 and more people with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes? How do you explain Jesus healing the sick? How do you explain Jesus raising the dead? How do you explain Jesus walking on water? How do you explain Jesus calming the raging storm? Will the natural mind believe it? It takes one who has that connection with God in the spiritual realm to understand these things and know that it is a display of God's power and his might. So when God has given you that assignment for 2024, He wants to display His power and might. Do not let your fear crumble that. Do not let your fear crumble and put a halt on what God wants to do in your life. If that dream, if that assignment does not scare you, it's probably just your intentions, it's probably just your emotions, it's probably just what you think. But when it comes to God, it is always mind-blowing. It cannot be ordinary. It will scare you so much so that if you are spiritually alert, you will run to Him for help. Because He said,